Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing a book review, and I feel like my first real video back from my hiatus should be the book that I read over the break at I thoroughly enjoyed. Thoroughly probably isn't a strong enough word because I gave this book 5 stars. Anyone who's been watching my channel for a while knows that only one, maybe two books get a 5 star rating from me in a year. And so this year that 5 star rating is going to The Collected Schizophrenias by Esme Wei Wang. This is a nonfiction book. It's a collection of essays, and clearly I enjoyed it. This is a book that I feel like got a decent amount of hype when it first came out. I know a lot of people who have read it and really enjoyed it. And so I went into it with like relatively high expectations, or at least like expectations that I would enjoy this book quite a bit, but I was really blown away by this book. So Esme is someone who suffers from schizophrenia, and so this entire essay collection is about her life with that illness. She talks about a lot of different things in here, but they all like fit together really well. Whether it be the process of her getting diagnosed with schizophrenia and sort of the process that it took in order to get that diagnosis. She talks about how originally she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but she had a feeling that that wasn't quite the right diagnosis for her. And so she did a lot of research on her own. She did some reading. She talks about her own sort of biases in the beginning about schizophrenia, and how when she was originally diagnosed with bipolar, she was just like really happy that she wasn't as bad as schizophrenics. And she sort of uses that as a way to talk about schizophrenia in a broader sense, to talk about the biases that most people have when it comes to schizophrenia. A lot of us only have thoughts and ideas about schizophrenia because of things that we've seen in like movies or television or things like that. We think of these really extreme cases when that's not really an accurate representation of what schizophrenia actually is and how varied schizophrenia can be for different people. So she talks about, again, like the journey for her to get diagnosed with schizophrenia and then her life living with that diagnosis. She talks about a lot of the different episodes that she remembers having. She talks about how she struggled from like college onwards with various different situations, and how schizophrenia looks like in her life. And in doing so, she's basically trying to dispel a lot of the myths around schizophrenia while also not quite normalizing schizophrenia, because I don't know if it's really possible to do that at this point in time, but sort of talking about how what we think we know about this disease is really not accurate at all. And even if we do know some things that are accurate, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. One of the things that I found fascinating in here is the fact that doctors who study mental illness know very little about schizophrenia and are very hesitant about like using that label and using that term because it feels like such a loaded diagnosis. And so she talks about the difficulties in getting that diagnosis and getting the right treatment that she needs. She talks about her struggles with, figuring out the treatment that she needs as well. Something that I'm sure a lot of people who suffer from different mental illnesses have dealt with is like finding the right balance of like medications, what to take, what not to take, what your body reacts to, things like that. Even if you're someone who suffers from like depression or anxiety, you don't necessarily take the exact same medication that everyone else does. And so figuring out what works for her was like a huge process. And she also just talks about the ways that schizophrenia has impacted her life, the life of the people around her, her friends, her family. One of the most moving parts of this book for me was her talking about motherhood and how she can't possibly imagine a world in which she chooses to become a mother because she doesn't know how to take care of someone else if she's like dealing with her episodes. And so she worries about what the impact that would have on her child. And yet she also, desires motherhood at certain times and wonders if it would ever be possible, but it just doesn't seem very likely. And she feels bad about withholding that opportunity from her husband sometimes as well. And that was just like a really moving and beautiful thing to read about, and just her own sort of debate that she has in her head about that. Another thing that I really enjoyed in this book is how Esme talks about like other parts of her life and how that sort of becomes intertwined with her episodes and with her diagnosis of schizophrenia. She talks about how she wrote a fashion blog for a really long time and how a lot of people didn't realize that she suffered from any sort of mental illness at all, or thought that she was doing completely okay, because she loves fashion so much, and so she almost always looks really, really put together, and how she attributes like our own sort of biases towards people and the way that they look in her ability to be a successful, relatively fully functioning person in society despite having schizophrenia. She talks about how she's gone to these prestigious schools and things like that, and how she even still tries to separate herself from other people by using that as being like, well, I might have schizophrenia, but I have gone to Yale and whatnot. And I think that one of the things I really, really loved about this book is that it's really complex. Esme isn't afraid to be honest and explore those complexities, explore those gray areas, and explore how, like, even though she suffers from schizophrenia, she's still extremely biased in so many different ways, and she's open about that. And not that it makes you feel like your biases are okay, but it does at least help you recognize your own biases and makes you think about the way that you look at the people around you, look at the world around you, etc. Yeah, it's amazing and it's beautiful and it's so well written. It's so engaging. As much as I enjoy Grey Wolf Press, sometimes their books can feel a little bit too heady for me, or too abstract, a little too out there sometimes. But this is one of those where it's the perfect balance of cerebral and full of information about this disease, but also full of heart and a real story about this person. So it really connects you to the story and to the essays themselves, while also providing you with informations about this complex and very unknown sort of disease. So yeah, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that I can highly recommend this book to literally everyone. That's how I feel about most of my 5-star books, but this one especially I feel like is one that not only do I recommend it to everyone, but I feel like it should be required reading for everyone, because I think, again, it will provide you with information about this mental illness, and as well as open your eyes up to maybe biases that you either know you have or maybe don't know you have, and just makes you reassess the way that you look at the world around you. So yeah, I cannot recommend this one highly enough. So that is everything I have for you guys. Man, I feel a little bit rusty doing that, so hopefully that was a good review, and hopefully this convinces you to pick up this book, because again, I think everyone should read it. So let me know down in the comments below if you've read this book, and if you did, let me know your favorite parts of it, or what your general thoughts were on this book, or if you have other books sort of like this that you would recommend. I would definitely love that down below. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.